to Alex Murdaugh. And I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but Alec is sporting a new haircut. And I found this very interesting, knowing that he's going to jail for the rest of his life. And maybe, what they say when they go into jail, they kind of toughen their image a little bit, because I think Alec's going to be in for a little bit when he gets into jail, especially when you go away for life for double murder. Some people like to test new entries into the jail, but trying to maybe toughen himself up a little bit. I'm pretty sure he'll probably grow a beard or something like that, or a mustache to try to get that look about him. But what I wanted to do is real quick, I just want to pull this up. Christine in the chat, she's a channel member and one of my moderators. Hey, Christine, welcome to the stream this evening. She says, hey, chat group, the opinionated idiot homepage is always off by 1 day on upcoming videos from, I don't know what it, and this one was coming up at 2 a.m. on the 5th. That's crazy. Really? So my videos, are you saying when I set my reminders, they're off, or when I send out new videos? She said, didn't mean to send that blubber. It's okay. Homepage is always off by 1 day, upcoming videos. Is that my reminders, like my stream reminders are off? Because that's interesting. If that's an issue, that's something that I need to call out to YouTube. Where are you? When I go to your page, it's always off. That's interesting. Christine, if I can ask you, are you in the US or are you out of country? Because maybe that's a setting. Maybe that's a setting that I have to fix, or something that I have to complain to YouTube, because I don't want obviously that to be off. BC says if he had that shave in court, the trial would have been 6 hours long. Yes, I double checked it now. She's in Wisconsin. Oh, interesting. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's something I need to complain to YouTube. Thank you for letting me know about that. All new SE inmates have their head shaved during intake. Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you, Dr. Bob. But a lot of times, people will do that to kind of toughen their image as well, too. All new. Okay. South Carolina inmates have their head shaved during the intake. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that. Did not know that, but that's some interesting information. So let's do this. I'm going to pull up an article from Fox News, and we'll kind of pedal through this a little bit. It says Alex Murdaugh juror reveals. Now, we have the jury talking. I think we had an arresting officer talking, and they have the freedom to do that now that this case is settled and it's over. It says Alex Murdaugh juror reveals final moment deliberating the verdict, and how the dog kennel video proved to be the key in this case. So essentially, it's like the TikTok video is the one that really nailed down Alex Murdaugh for doing this. And I think that's really the moment that stuck with the jury, saying that he wasn't there. And obviously you could hear voices in the background, his wife, you could hear them down at the kennel. They were there. Murdaugh was sentenced to life in prison Friday after his was found guilty of fatally shooting his wife and son. I said all along, it just seemed to me that he was guilty. And that was my opinion during that. I just didn't understand how he's, basically lied about his whole life, lied to his law firm, was stealing money, was doing up to 60 pills a day, huge drug addict, faked a suicide. But he claimed, and he keeps claiming, that he didn't kill his wife and son. And what we're going to do after I kind of pedal through some of this article is I do want to play the sentencing, the 20-minute sentencing from the judge, and how he really laid into Alec. And if you haven't seen that, we can go through that as well. So this here says a juror in the Alex Murdaugh case told Fox Digital News that that Faith got the jury panel through an extremely difficult trial and called the dog kennel video a crucial piece of evidence as they deliberated the case. James, who asked his last name to be withheld, said the panel prayed together before entering the courtroom Thursday evening to deliver the verdict on guilty on all counts, sending Murdaugh to prison for the rest of his life. It says, we prayed together. We prayed before we went in. We prayed before we came out and gave the verdict, said James. Who knows? Who was known as juror number 530 during the 6-week WALTERBORO, South Carolina trial. That was a huge factor in us being able to sit comfortably with our decision. It goes on to say, deliberations to a swift verdict. Man, I was sitting there watching it. I was actually home that day. I was watching it, and I forget whose channel I was watching, but she's a well-known attorney. I think she still might deliberate, but I was watching her channel, and I want to get her name right because she did a great coverage. Hang on. It was Emily D. Baker. I was watching Emily D. Baker, watching her live stream, and it came back in 3 hours, under 3 hours, and I went, dude, he's done. He's guilty. It came back so quick. It says James is 22 at the same age as Paul when he was murdered near the dog kennels of the family hunting estates in Islington, June 7, 2021. When the 12 jurors got in the deliberation room, they took a vote, and it was 9 for guilty and 3 for not guilty, he said in the interview on Friday. They claimed they calmly discussed the evidence, going through everyone's questions, then took another vote, which was unanimous. So just going through that evidence one more time, they had enough to convince the 3 people in that room to come in with that guilty verdict under 3 hours. We were all pretty sure we knew what had happened, and we knew who had pulled the trigger, he told Fox Digital, wearing a tie with a Constitution motif. He and 10 of the jurors returned to the courthouse Friday and watched as Murdaugh, wearing a beige prison. So they went back and watched the sentencing. Wow. Wearing a beige prison-issued jumpsuit and shackles, was handed a double life sentence. The trial lasted 6 weeks, twice as long as predicted, and jurors heard from about 76 witnesses. Before I read on, let me just pull this chat up real quick. I got a lot of people chatting. Let's see. Going back to Cranky One, how are you? He said, soon. How soon do you think Alec will file appeal? It's almost automatically. That I'm sure their attorneys are already lining that up, and I think they have within 30 days to put up an appeal. So that I'm sure that's already. SC is saying, and SC is a moderator. Thank you for joining me this Saturday night. Good to see you here. She said, I thought his last comment was so disrespectful. He had one chance to apologize or something, but decided to treat the court like a joke. And I'm sure you're probably referring to Alec when he stood up and said, I am innocent. I did not do this. I did not kill my wife and child, my wife and son. I'm sure that's probably what you're referring to. So let's see. Kristen is saying, by the way, the next 2 streams show up for the 6th at 2 a.m. Tony's story, then the drunk turkey at 1 a.m. on the 10th. Done bothering you guys now. There's no bother at all. Maybe that's something that's going on in the algorithm with YouTube today. I'm not too sure, but thank you for letting me know that. And I will definitely look into that after this stream is over, or have to put a complaint to, to YouTube to try to look at that. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that. Teresa saying shaving income inmates' heads perhaps helped keep the head lice out of the facility. That's a great point as well. And SC is just responding saying yes. So let's keep going back to the article here. Dog kennel video was critical. James, a graduate of Clemson University who works in construction, said all the evidence in the case was important, but the dog kennel video was particularly crucial, he said. Murdaugh repeatedly told investigators, family members, and friends that he didn't go to the dog kennels the night of the murders. And let's play that video right here.
Get back. Get back.
Now you're going to hear voices in the background.
Quit, Cash. Come on. Quit. It's okay. Come here.
Here's the voices.
Come here, Cash.
Now it wasn't me that rewinded
Get
it.
back. Quit, Cash. Come on. Quit. It's okay. Come here. Come here, Cash. Shit. Come here. Post it. Cash.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Here's his wife. There's his son.
Hey, Bubba.
It's a guinea.
There's a chick back there.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
So let me ask you, if this, and this is what's interesting as well too, if this video wasn't taken at that specific time, would this have casted doubt in the jury? Would there maybe possibly be a hung jury? Would he have walked on these charges? If this gentleman James is saying this was the crucial piece of evidence that made this jury decide Alex's fate, if that video wasn't there, would he have walked? Would there have been a hung jury? I mean, I'd love to know that. But investigators revealed retrieved a cell phone video from Paul's phone in April of 2022 that he had recorded at 8:45 p.m., 4 minutes before prosecutors said he and his mom were shot to death. The clip captured the voices of Maggie and Murdaugh in the background talking about their yellow lab Bubba catching a chicken in his mouth, shredding the family's alibi, and forcing him to take the stand to address the lie. I think it's incredible timing on Paul's part, James said. I don't think that anyone would have ever known that he was down there if it wasn't for that video. I think that there's a lot of evidence that points towards Alex, but I feel that this does solidify it. Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. Let's pull the chat up here. BC says, I bet they come to visit you every night. And Kristen saying the juror that was interviewed said that by Alex Murdaugh verifying it was indeed him at the kennel, he messed up because that was his only saving grace. And SC says without that video, he would have walked. And then Kristen's agreeing with SC as well. Wow. I mean, that is just either a amazing stroke of luck or just fate that video was taken at that time. And it's crazy because now I go back to the interview when Alec was in the police vehicle like 4 hours after they had got there and they started doing the first initial interview on him. It's like, go back and watch that. You can see it in his mind and in his head. He's trying to keep the story straight because I'm sure he had been thinking about this. How am I going to present this after this happens? How am I going to keep under pressure? You know, in knowing that he's an attorney and has this background of being an attorney and how case work and evidence is collected, you know, you can see him systematically kind of running through, you know, the timeline. And it's really, really, really interesting. So James said that Paul, in a way, helped solve his own murder. It says a lot that someone couldn't speak, someone that couldn't be a witness was able to be a witness even after they passed away, he said. They went and did a visit at the murder scene. It says the jury visited the murder scene, known as the mausoleum, helped them flesh out flesh out the crime. Ironically, the excursion came at a request of the defense, but it may have bolstered the prosecution's case. Based on the testimony from the expert, Murdaugh was standing near the doorway when he used a shotgun to fire the first non-fatal shot to Paul's chest. Jeez, man. Who was in the middle of the feeding room. The second shot came from a dramatic upward angle, grazing Paul's shoulder, entering his neck and below his brain, out through the top of his skull. On the visit, James observed a 1-inch threshold at the base of the feed room that helped explain the second shot unusual trajectory. I think if Murdaugh is looking at Paul and he's just shot a buckshot, which if you're not firm, it can rock you pretty good. I think it could have been unbalanced, and I think he could have tripped over the threshold and puts himself on the ground shooting up, says James. I think it makes sense for me for the angle of the shot. Wow, these guys really studied the evidence and really worked this out in the jury room. This gives you a really, they really took this case serious. I mean, to really think of all that, that's a really great statement from from Paul. And Teresa says the little detective solved his own murder case. Absolutely. Dr. Bob says having to admit he was on a golf cart did not help his cause either. It made the timeline more doable. Absolutely. So Murdaugh's testimony didn't decide the case. James said that Murdaugh's grueling 2 days in the witness stand didn't decide the case. There's enough evidence that gathered by SLED and produced by Paul, he noted. But Murdaugh's testimony did show the jurors how a disbarred attorney deceived people so persuasively and effortlessly by often combining the truth with a lie. James said the prosecution's argument that there was a perfect storm gathering and Murdaugh was on the cusp of devastating financial reckoning was a good theme, but wasn't a persuasive motive. I don't think I'd ever be able to answer why somebody would do something like that, he said, but I know that there are people in this world that don't make sense and they do things without making it sense. So I don't know that there's an answer other than what happened and that it shouldn't have. And poor Buster, this poor kid. Jesus. I mean, can you imagine the psychological damage this young man's going to have for the rest of his life? Had to sit there and watch his dad go to jail after killing his mother and his brother. Poor kid. He noted that prosecutors didn't have to prove motive, and it was just the actual evidence that sealed Murdaugh's fate. James added that he felt profound empathy for Murdaugh's only living son, Buster, 26, and the rest of the family who were fixtures in the courtroom. I don't wish the position that they were in on anybody, he said. I felt for them, and I had no idea how they're feeling, but I know that this was not easy for them. And it's funny that he's talking about this because I remember there was a report by the media that when Alex Murdaugh was doing his 2-day on the witness stand, his being interviewed on the witness stand and cross-examined, that there was reported that there were a few jurors in the jury pool that are actually crying during the testimony. And I wonder if they were crying for Buster, knowing that he was sitting in the courtroom, having to hear all this, and maybe just overtaken by emotion and just really feeling for his only living son at this point. I wonder if that's what it was. And that was what scared me. I said, shit, people are crying while he's on the stand. This means that they probably have sympathy for Murdaugh. This might be a hung jury, or he may walk. He may walk. Let me pull up the chat here. Let's see. Kristen says, why are people saying Buster may be going to jail? Some people are really coming down on this kid. Honestly, I have no idea. I haven't even heard or seen anything about that, Kristen. I feel for the poor kid, and that's it. That's going to end that article. But what I want to do now is, and there's that mugshot. Jeez.